Morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday. We're getting really close to the end of the school year. I'm pretty excited about it. We're looking at a new topic this week. This is our last big topic for the circles unit. This gets really algebraic heavy, and actually your homework assignment for today is only 2 questions long, practicing the same thing, and then we'll do more on Thursday. All right, and so we're actually going to look at this method called completing the square, and what that's about is it's about patterns, and so we're going to look at patterns first and then use that pattern to help us find the equation of a circle. So a bit of algebra. So if we're going to evaluate the following expressions, I want you to pause this and then take a moment to try it out, and then when you unpause it, we'll go over it. All right, so we're going to check this. X plus 4 squared technically means that you write this out twice. And then, if you remember, you're going to distribute your values here so that you get x squared plus 4x plus 4x plus 16. These are like terms, so that's x squared plus 8x plus 16. Okay? Now, when I do that again here for y minus 3 squared, I'll get y squared and then minus 3y minus another 3y plus 9 when you multiply the negative 3's together. And so if you add those like terms, you get y squared minus 6y plus 9. Now, why are we doing this? Well, completing the square actually means what do you do if I'm going to go backwards? That is, if I'm actually going to start from here, right? If I start here where it's already all multiplied out, how do I get back to this factored form? All right, that's our goal today. And so that'll help us actually find our equations. Now, what I'm going to do here is do a little bit erasing, and we're going to notice some patterns. So when I look here, where does the, oops, where's my pen here? There you go. Where does the x squared come from? It's from the x times x, right? Where does the 16 come from? It's from the 4 times 4, right? So that's easy to see. If there's an error, some people really just forget the middle term. And so where does the middle term really come from? Well, this middle term really comes from the 2 4's. So the 4x plus the 4x. So it's double this number. Okay? Now I'm going to see if that works for my second expression here. Where do the y squareds come from? They come from y times y. That's your y squared. Where does the 9 come from? It is the negative 3 times the negative 3. So it's this number squared. And then, where does the negative 6 come from? Well, it's from these two negative 3's, which is double the negative 3. So in Algebra 2 next year, when you see something like this, let's write w plus 5 squared. You might be able to just write out the pattern. You might say, okay, well, I know you had a w squared. All right, I know I need to double this 5 to get the middle term, so 10w. And then I square this 5 to get the last term. 5 squared is 25. We'll do that again. T minus 2 squared. This one will not look as obvious, but we start out with t squared. Then we double this number, so it's minus 4t. And then we square this number, so it's plus 4. All right, so I'm going to ask you to actually try to do this backwards. So let's say I have something like, let's say x squared minus, let's see, what's one we haven't done yet? X squared minus 14x plus 49. Okay? If I want to get it back to this form, I've got to check a couple things. So this number if I take half of this number, negative 14, I divide it by 2, I get a negative 7. Cool. And then if I take this negative 7, I'm going to check. If I square the negative 7, do I get a 49? Yes. So this was originally a perfect square of x minus 7 squared. All right, if you want to try another one, if I got a y squared plus 20y plus 100, what does that come out to in factored form? All right, you can pause and try it. And then after you do, you'll see that it should be y plus 10 squared. 10 is half of 20, the middle term. And when I square it, 10 squared is 100, which checks out. All right, so some algebra there. So why are we learning how to complete the square? It's a tool that helps us define the equations of circles in standard form. You'll see this again in Algebra 2 and Pre-Calc. So we're going to write an equation in standard form for this circle. So I'm already telling you this is a circle. Can you determine the center and radius of this circle? So if you look at it right now, it doesn't look like an equation. So remember, our goal for a circle equation is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. All right. And at this point, if you're kind of lost as to what we did before, it's okay. It'll make hopefully a little more sense after these 3 examples, and then your homework looks just like this. All right. So our goal is to make our equation look like that. So far we have x squared plus y squared plus 6x minus 8y minus 11 equals 0. All right, I want this to look like my goal equation there. So I'm actually going to put my x terms together, and I'm going to leave a little space, and then I'm going to put my y terms together. And then anything extra that is not an x or a y on this side, for example, in this case, it's negative 11, I'm just going to move that to the other side. So to move the minus 11 to the other side, I actually have to add it. Okay, oops, and I meant to leave a space here. So here's where all the thinking has to happen. So I need to now complete the square. That's what that tool is. Complete the square. When I complete the square, then I'll be able to find the center and radius of my circle because I'll have my equation in the right form. So I need to figure out what this number is and what this number is. Okay, I'm actually going to put a different marking there. All right, well, how do we know that? Well, from before, if you look back at our equations, this number is half of the middle number squared, okay? So this number is actually 6 over 2, and then we have to square it, okay? So this is plus 3 squared. Now, if I'm going to add that to my left side of the equation, to balance the equation, I have to add it to the right side. So I'm going to add it there. Then I'm going to look here again. What's that number going to be? It's going to be half of the middle term. So half of this value here. So half of negative 8. I'm going to keep the sign. And then I'm going to square it. Now here's something tricky. You've got to, when you square a negative number, you should always get a positive number. So I'm going to put parentheses there. Okay. So once I've done that, I can rewrite this. This is really an x plus half of 6. So x plus 3 squared plus y plus half of negative 8 minus 4 squared equals, and then I have to add all this together. 11 plus 9 plus 16 from what I got before. And if you notice, my equation is starting to look more like a circle equation. My left-hand side looks good. And then 20 plus 16 is 36. Okay, so my center is negative 3, positive 4. My radius is the square root of 36, which is 6. Now, as long as your radius is a positive number and you get decimal answers, it's totally okay. All right, and remember, this is a video, so you can watch it again. we're going to try it 2 more times. All right. We're going to write the equation in standard form and then graph it for this equation. So I'm actually going to take this and write it so my x terms are together. Oops, but that's a -2. And I'm going to leave a space there. Y squared plus 6y, and I have a -10 here, so I'm going to add 10 to get it to the other side. Okay. What is this number? Right? We have to take half of -2 and then square it. So that's actually a plus -1 squared. Well, I have to add that to the right-hand side as well. If I want to complete the square here, and again, remember that's the name of the tool we're using, complete the square. I take half the middle term, so half of 6. Right, and here's the middle term. That's what I'm talking about there. And I square it. So that's plus 3 squared. So if I add a 3 squared to the left side, I have to add it to the right side. And then I rewrite these. This becomes x plus half of -2. So x minus 1 squared plus y plus half of 6. So y plus 3 squared equals 10 plus 1 plus 9 equals 20. And then I have to graph it. But before I graph it, you still need to find the center and the radius, even if I didn't ask for it. So since the square root of 20 isn't a nice number, I'm just going to ask you to round to 2 decimal places and then graph it from there. So 1, -3 is your center, and then you need your 3 points. So about 4.5 up, down, left, and right. 1, 2, 3, 4.5-ish. 1, 2.5-ish. 1, 2, 3, 4.5-ish. 1, 2, 3, 4.5-ish. Okay? Well, that was a terrible picture. Let me try that again. All right. And then we've got one more. Now this one looks a little odd in that it's not just an x squared or y squared. Now luckily they both have 3's in front of them. So what I would do first when I see something like this is actually divide the 3's out. So that I now get x squared minus 2x plus y squared plus 8y minus 8 equals 0. Okay? Now I'm going to rearrange like we usually do. Put the x's together, put the y's together, and then I'm going to move the -8 over to the other side, so now it's +8. Now I'm going to write less steps now. So if I'm going to add something here, I'm going to add half of -2. So -1 squared. And then I'm going to add half of 8 here and then square it. So 4 squared. And since I added those to the left-hand side, I have to add them to the right-hand side. So this becomes, and I'm hoping what you notice here is x minus 1 squared plus y plus 4 squared equals 8 plus 1 plus 16, 25. A couple things to notice before I let you go and we finish this up. Notice this half of the -2 is this number here. Half of the 8 gave us 4. That's this number here. And remember, all of these together give us the radius squared when you add them up. So your center is 1, -4. Radius equals the square root of 25, and it's 5. All right, that's it. You've got actually only 2 for practice for your assignment tonight. If you have any questions, you have till tomorrow, till 4 for it to be on time. Feel free to come to office hours. Otherwise, send me a note. All right, be good. Have fun at eSchool.